Hi everybody, Chris Stenson here, Discgolf Institute. You're more than welcome to the part that is called Principles and Strategies. And the principle and strategies is actually the question in why behind the what. So it's actually the why we are doing things, why I'm showing a certain amount of exercises and stuff here. And if you are logging in on Discgolf Institute just because you want to have exercises to train and not really want to know why you are doing it, then you don't really have to watch this part right here. So this is principle and strategies is in every sport you can imagine that we are analyzed. It's a very important part and a very powerful tool to bring in. It's based on that your training programs and your design of programs should be in the same principle as in the sport that you are evaluating. So for disc golf, for example, it's very important that you train for disc golf. So you want to train what you want to be good at, and that is actually it seems to pretty basic information, but out there it's not so basic. Let's say I have a couple of examples. Let's say that you are doing a lot of push-ups, and a push-up is a good exercise if you want to have a big strong pectoralis muscles in front. But for disc golf it's pretty useless and can actually inhibit a part of the backswing and the follow-through as well. Because you just don't stimulate the pectoralis muscles in the function for disc golf, just in the function for lying on the ground and doing a push-up against the gravity. So it's that was just an example, but it's one of the common things that we are meeting all the time, people in different sports that's training on the wrong things. So I have also a motto on the clinic that you should be able to go out with an athlete out on a plain solid ground and just create the function that you really wanted to create with a lot of stability and strength on it, without any equipment, without any help from a machine or something. That's what's differentiate a good trainer or coach from a bad one, basically. So when we're talking about strategies and principles, I'm gonna mention 8 really important things that are critical for understanding what the disc golf technique is about, and I'm gonna try to explain them in a as easy as I can. So not too much fancy words from me, I hope. If I using those, I will explain those as well. So the principle and strategies are actually based on the biomechanical laws, like how we move over gravity. Gravity is a really strong, base principle. It's very hard to argue that we have gravity on Earth. And another one is the momentum that our legs and the arms are creating in different sports, and the momentum is actually movement over gravity, and movement over gravity are gonna create some sort of reaction, and often a muscular reaction, which is in our mind like a regular movement or activity. We don't really think about it, but it's there all the time, and all the training programs and exercises are actually based on those kind of strategies and principles. So like gravity, momentum, and gravity reaction force. It's the law when you are pushing in a certain amount of weight to the ground is going to push the same weight up to you. So it's kind of really easy to understand those principles, and it's very hard to argue as well. So that's very good. So we're gonna train like the body have to do in disc golf. So that's my main goal. So the 8 things that I wanted to just mention now, I'm gonna go through each part for you so you can understand it better. But the first one is actually muscle function, and the muscle function is gonna be a pretty big part of the principles. It's very important for us to understand what the muscles are doing. That a muscle is like a rubber band. It's decelerate and lengthen to be able to accelerate and shorten. And it's our job to create that in the disc golf technique in as a good way as possible. So that's one thing of the muscle function. And we also have the biomechanical muscle function we're gonna go through later on, and in that part I'm gonna explain for you what the local effect of a muscle function is. Let's say in the gastrocs in the foot, what kind of function the gastrocs have in the backswing in disc golf techniques. And I also will mention what kind of global function it has. So because even though that the gastroc is doing a certain thing in the backswing, for example, it has a dramatically effect in the global whole system, even all the way out to the shoulder. So a lot of times when we are analyzing, let's say, a shoulder injury, you often notice that it's a muscle way off of the area that the patient is actually complaining in. That is the problem, the gastroc, for example. So I'm going to try to explain how that's working in the body, so you can better have a better understanding in the thought process about that. Number 2, proprioceptors. Proprioceptors is a bunch of cells that is actually given to us within joints, muscles, tendons, soft tissue, and I'm gonna go through why it's so important that we will activate the proprioceptors for disc golf. That is actually a very powerful part of the training for disc golfers, to be activating the proprioceptors through movement, through strength, and all for disc golf. So that's also going to be an amazing and very good and big part of it. We also have number 3, real and relative movement, and that is actually also a very important thing to know about. What is the real movement in disc golf and what's the relative movement in disc golf? That's not the same thing, and I'm gonna clarify that later on as well. And I'm gonna also explain number 4, and it's chain reaction. We're gonna go through the chain reaction for disc golf. So all the way from the foot up into the discs, I'm gonna go through and let you know what's going on in each part. And I'm gonna teach you how to test that and to focus maybe on a local structure that is actually inhibiting your disc golf throw, so you can be able to train in more global exercises after that as well. So we're gonna go through the chain reaction for disc golf in the backswing, in the follow through, and in the whole swing. And I'm gonna let you know what you need to do for get that to work as well. So the number 5 is 3 dimensions. We're gonna go through the muscle function in each plane. You have basically 3 planes. It's back and forth, side to side, and rotation, and it's a combination of all those actually in the disc golf throw. So we need to implement that as well, and I will go through each big muscle group and the 3D functionality in disc golf for it. both with backhand, with sidearm, even if you know are training for a good roller and want to have the function for it. I'm going to teach you that as well. So that's going to be pretty exciting. Number 6, we have a thing called a driver in the sports medicine world. And a driver is actually how you can manipulate your training environment. It could be a driver from within, from the body. Let's say that I'm doing an exercise with my arm being the driver. It's like a body part that is actually doing the first amount of motion within the exercise. But a driver can also be a manipulation of the environment as well. So let's say you can be standing on a box and throw, or as we are working with a lot of golfers, you are standing in the bunker or on a wobble board or that kind of things. You can also manipulate the external environment in very unlimited ways. So I'm going to teach you how you can manipulate the external and internal environment in disc golf for enable to be a better disc golfer. I have a good example of manipulating an environment. Let's say that you are just a walker, that we are working with the gate with a person, and actually the gate pattern isn't the best within that person's function. Then we can manipulate and use a certain amount of drivers. We can manipulate the ground that the person are walking at. We can manipulate also the driver with the feet, going with internal rotation and external rotation with the feet, and going wide or thin or narrow. And that is actually the reason why we are manipulate the person or the activity as disc golf, for example, is that when you're throwing a regular shot out on the course later on, it's going to be easy for the body. So we're going to bring the body's function up to a level that is actually above your regular level. So the gap between those two is actually, the more gap you have here, the better function for disc golf it is. So that is also one thing. Number 7, we have we're gonna go through the transformational zones for disc golf. Every sport have their own transformational zones. It's like a pivot point where the body shifts from the backswing to turn to the front swing and into the follow through. And most of the activities and sports out there have at least 2 transformational zones in a global perspective, but each joint and each muscle have their own transformational zones for disc golf. So that's very important that we are training out in the transformational zones for disc golf to be able to throw effectively. As I tell you, this is the why behind the what. And number 8 is actually research. So I'm gonna present you a lot of studies that is presenting why you are doing these kind of exercises and what you're gonna have it for. So it's gonna be exciting. It's also a very good complement if, let's say that you are having a knee injury or you have knee pain when you're out throwing. Then you can just go to the knee section and read about the knee biomechanics in the backswing, in the follow through, what the transformational zones are for the knee, for disc golf, and just train, in that part. So you are able to choose your favorite parts